Jaya Madhava Kunja Bihari. Can I get the other ones? These are not very good. Thank you. Jaya Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Yevadhari. Thank you. Yashodanandana Bhaja Janarandana. Yashodanandana Bhaja Janarandana. Yamunatiya Vanachai. Yamunatiya Vanachai. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Givadhari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Givadhari. Yashodanandana Bhaja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Bhaja Janaranjana. Yamunatiya Vanachai. Yamunatiya Vanachai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Shri Radhe. Om Namo Bhagavate Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Please chant with me. Nayanam namaskityam naram chaiva narotanam devyam saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiyayet naskapayeshu badeshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati utamashloke bhaktiya bhavati naishtiki om agyantimirandasya gyananjara shalakaya Chakshurun militanyena tasmai Shri Gurave namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachayine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashata Deshatayine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Good morning. Welcome to Srimad Bhagavatam class. Thank you for coming. I want to offer my most humble obeisances. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kipasindubhya evacha patitanam pavanibhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. For all the devotees for giving me their attention and the opportunity to speak. Just whatever I've heard, just whatever I've realized by the mercy of the Lord. So, you know, our Bhakti Lata Beach, our seat of devotional service, our little creeper, is very fragile, or at least I can speak for mine, is very fragile. And we know who has the scissors. We know who has the gardening scissors. Krishna does. And at any point, if we displease him, you know, if we offend devotees, offend the holy name, he can chop it off. So, yeah, this is why this process, it starts with humility and it ends with humility. So it takes a little bit of humility to realize, hey, you know what do I know? Let me inquire from a spiritual master. And then as the process goes on, it ends with utter humility, where it's like, hey, I'm nothing without Krishna. Everything that I know, everything I'm able to do, everything I'm able to speak, it comes from the mercy of the Lord. So that's the self-realized platform. Anyways, today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 9, and we'll be reading from verse 12 up to verse 20. And this part of the Bhagavatam is awesome. I love this part. It's so epic. You know, there's so many parts in the Bhagavatam that literally could be like a blockbuster movie, actually. And this is one of them. It's full of thrill and horror and suspense. But it's also full of wonderful lessons that we can take for ourselves. So here we have Jad Bharat in his third incarnation. So he was the king of the world, and then he became a deer, and now he is a son of a Brahmana, and completely self-realized, but he doesn't want to be attached to anyone or anything, so he's like, I'm just going to act like I'm stupid. And that's actually what Jad actually means. It means stupid Bharat. But he's not actually stupid. He's the most wise of all. And so, all right, we can read. I think I have the microphones. read from text 12 to 20, and we'll focus on 18.
At this time, being desirous of obtaining a son, a leader of the Dakwits who came from a Sudra family wanted to worship the goddess Badr Kali by offering her in sacrifice a dole man who is considered no better than an animal.
Yeah, so these dacoits, these like thieves, these like, demons, they're doing this sacrifice because they want, it says here, obtaining a son. That's one thing. Later on it says to obtain wealth. So basically to obtain material benefits, they're worshiping Goddess Kali. And as is said in scriptures, how do we worship Goddess Kali? One way is through sacrificing of a life. So in this case, it would be a human, but it's supposed to be like what is called a man-animal. So I guess even lower than a Shudra, a man that's basically just like an animal. So yeah, we can keep reading, please.
The leader of the dacoits captured a man-animal for sacrifice, but he escaped, and the leader ordered his followers to find him. They ran in different directions but could not find him, wandering here and there in the middle of the night, covered by dense darkness. They came to a paddy field where they saw the exalted son of the Angira family, Jadbarat, who was sitting in an elevated place, guarding the field against the attacks of deer and wild pigs.
So imagine, you're sitting peacefully in the countryside on an elevated seat, and you're just observing, you're just protecting the paddy field from the attacks of deer and wild pigs, and you're just there peacefully, and all of a sudden these dacoits, these demons, these like ghouls-looking personalities show up, and they're looking for a man animal. They're looking for somebody to use in their sacrifice. So next one.
The followers and servants of the dacoit chief considered Barada to possess qualities quite suitable for a man animal, and they decided that he was a perfect choice for sacrifice. Their faces bright with happiness, they bound him with ropes and brought him to the temple of the goddess Kali.
Yeah, so they chose him because, he was pretending to be dumb and dull, so he was, he wasn't really taking care of his appearance. He looked quite disheveled. And he wasn't trying to speak to them or present himself as being civilized. So they were just like, okay, this is the one. Let's grab him and go. Keep going.
After this, all the thieves, according to their imaginative ritual for killing animalistic men, bathed Jadabharat, dressed him in new clothes, decorated him with ornaments befitting an animal, smeared his body with scented oils and decorated him with tilak, sandalwood pulp and garlands. They fed him sumptuously and then brought him before the goddess Kali, offering her incense, lamps, garlands, parched grain, newly grown twigs, sprouts, fruits and flowers. In this way they worshipped the deity before killing the man-animal, and they vibrated songs and prayers and played drums and bugles. Jadabharat was then made to sit down before the deity.
So I hope you can imagine this scene right now. So they all captured Jadabharat, and they brought him in front of the deity of goddess Kali in a temple. And they're decorating him, they're preparing him as a nice feast for the goddess. And but notice that there's nothing said about Jadabharat's reaction here. Notice how he's completely equanimous in this situation. All right, keep reading, please.
At this time, one of the thieves, acting as the chief priest, was ready to offer the blood of Jadabharat, who they imagined to be an animal man, to the goddess Kali to drink as a liquor. He therefore took up a very fearsome sword, which was very sharp, and concentrating it by by Badrakal raised it to kill Jadbarat.
Okay, so they're ready to kill him and feed him, or give him to Kali to drink as a liquor. And so they got this big sword, and they're preparing and consecrating it with the Kali mantra. So if we remember, what's the situation where Srila Prabhupada talks about goddess Kali? This is not that often, but any idea? He says if you have to eat meat, you have to at least offer it to the goddess Kali, following the Vedic principles like that. So this is kind of a situation like this, but we'll see what happens. Okay, text 17.
All the rogues and thieves who had made arrangements for the worship of goddess Kali were low-minded and bound to the modes of passion and ignorance. They were overpowered by the desire to become very rich. Therefore, they had the audacity to disobey the injunctions of the Vedas, so much so that they were prepared to kill Jadbarat, a self-realized soul born in a Brahmin family. Due to their envy, these dacoits brought him before the goddess Kali for sacrifice. Such people are always addicted to envious activities, and therefore they dared to try to kill Jadbarat. Jadbarat was the best friend of all living entities. He was no one's enemy, and he was always absorbed in meditation on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was born of a good Brahmin father, and killing him was forbidden, even though he might have been an enemy or aggressive person. In any case, there was no reason to kill Jadbarat, and the goddess Kali could not bear this. She could immediately understand that these sinful dacoits were about to kill a great devotee of the Lord. Suddenly, the deity's body burst asunder, and the goddess Kali personally emerged from it in a body burning with an intense and intolerable effulgence.
Can you say that again with more like you're giving a story to your daughter at night?
Suddenly, the deity's body burst asunder, and the goddess Kali personally emerged from it in a body burning with an intense and intolerable effulgence.
Chai, Haribo.
Hare Krishna.
I knew you could do it. Thank you very much. Yeah, what's a verse that this reminds you of the way that Jadbarat is dealing with this situation right now? Can you think of a verse? From ISKCON, more specifically. Yes. Vinadapi sunichena taro api saishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadari. So you see Jadbarat here, he's literally like in the most horrific situation. This is like a horror movie, You're surrounded by all these like evil demoniac person that want to offer you a sacrifice, but he is just taking the humble position. And this is actually how we're supposed to behave as devotees. When it comes to our own protection, if our own protection is being threatened, then we're supposed to take the humble position like a blade of grass. The blade of grass gets stepped on constantly every day. And you know what happens once it gets stepped on? So it just comes back up. And it doesn't say anything or tolerant like a tree. However, what we're about to see is that when we see another devotee get attacked or is being offended or something like that, then it's our duty that we're supposed to protect them at all costs. And this is the way that we can use anger in Krishna's service, actually. So please read the next verse.
Intolerant of the offenses committed, the infuriated goddess Kali flashed her eyes and displayed her fierce curved teeth. Her reddish eyes glowed, and she displayed her fearsome features. She assumed a frightening body, as if she were prepared to destroy the entire creation. Leaping violently from the altar, she immediately decapitated all the rogues and thieves with the very sword with which they had intended to kill Jadbarat. She then began to drink the hot blood that flowed from their necks of the beheaded rogues and thieves, as if this blood were liquor. Indeed, she drank this intoxicant with her associates who were witches and female demons. Becoming intoxicated with this blood, they all began to sing very loudly and dance as though prepared to annihilate the entire universe. At the same time, they began to play with the heads of the rogues and thieves, tossing them about as if they were balls.
Haribo. Can you put a picture of that, please, Prabhu? I'm sure if you just put Kali, Jadbarat, something like that. I love the pictures. It really helps me like put myself more in the story. That looks really small, but okay, that works. Yeah, so we see behind was the altar, and Jadbarat is in the back. He was made, he was kind of on the seat to be, in front of the goddess. But you see that the deity was cut in half, and she just jumped right through and just started slaughtering all of the demons. Does this scene remind you of another pastime in the Srimad Bhagavatam? Sri Nrsingadev, yes. Lord Nrsingadev, indeed, yeah. But in this case, it's not the Lord himself, is a devotee. So Goddess Kali is actually a devotee of the Lord, pure devotee. Even though she looks really kind of evil, she looks kind of demoniac, but that's her role. She's Durga, but the fierce form of Durga, or like the devastating form. So she has a particular role, and this is one of them, to eliminate the miscreants. And this is a proof that, that we call them demigods, but devatas is another word that some people like to hear more. Devatas, even if their own devotees are worshiping them, if they're offending the Lord, then they will not hesitate to kill their own devotees. It just shows who their real loyalty is with the Lord. All right, we'll read the next 2 verses, please.
When an envious person commits an offense before a great personality, he is always punished in the way mentioned above.
Okay, last one. You can read the last one.
Shukadev Goswami then said to Maharaj Parikshit, O Vishnudata, those who already know that the soul is separate from the body, who are liberated from the invincible knot in the heart, who are always engaged in the welfare of activities for all living entities, and who never contemplate harming anyone, are always protected by the Supreme Personality of God, who carries his disc, the Sudarshan Chakra, and acts at the supreme time to kill the demons and protect his devotees. The devotees always take shelter at the feet of the Lord. Therefore, at all times, even if threatened by decapitation, they remain unagitated. For them, this is not at all wonderful.
Arjuna, declare it boldly that my devotee will never perish. So this is an example of that, how the devotee is always protected by the Lord, either by himself directly or by his devotees like that. And the devotee is not afraid of, danger to his body, because he's completely detached. He's like, this is just my vehicle that I'm in right now. It's kind of like, okay, let's say you get in an accident and your car is totaled, but you're fine, but the car is totaled, no more car. Okay, so I just move on to my next vehicle. So the devotee, as long as he can serve Krishna in love, then it doesn't matter like which body he's at or anything like that. So I wanted to go back a little bit on the last verse. We kind of went through it really quickly, but when an envious person commits an offense before a great personality, he is always punished in the way mentioned above. Can you imagine? Gotta be careful. If we're envious of a great devotee and we commit an offense, Goddess Kali is gonna come. it illustrates its symbolism. It shows that, okay, the Lord really doesn't appreciate when devotees are taken advantage of like this. So we'll read, we'll focus on 18. So we can read, we'll skip the Sanskrit because it's prose, but we can read the translation, please. Who has a microphone? Dustin, do you want to read?
Hare Krishna. Intolerant of the offenses committed, the infuriated goddess Kali flashed her eyes and displayed her fierce, curved teeth. Her reddish eyes glowed, and she displayed her fearsome features. She assumed a frightening body as if she were prepared to destroy the entire creation. Leaping violently from the altar, she immediately decapitated all the rogues and thieves with the very sword which that they intended to kill Jed Bharat. She began to drink the hot blood that flowed from the necks of the beheaded rogues and thieves, as if this blood were liquor. Indeed, she drank this intoxicant with her associates, who were witches and female demons. Becoming intoxicated with this blood, they all began to sing very loudly and dance, though prepared to annihilate the entire universe. At the same time, they began to play with the heads of the rogues and the thieves, tossing them about as if they were balls.
Jai. By His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai. It is evident from this verse that the devotees of Goddess Kali are not at all favored by her. So her own devotees are not favored by her. Interesting. It is Goddess Kali's work to kill and punish the demons. Goddess Kali, or Durga, engages in decapitating many demons, dacoits, and other unwanted elements in society. Neglecting Krishna consciousness, foolish people try to satisfy the goddess by offering her many abominable things. But ultimately, when there is a little discrepancy in this worship, the goddess punishes the worshipper by taking his life. Demoniac people worship Goddess Kali to obtain some material benefit, but they are not excused of the sins performed in the name of worship. To sacrifice a man or animal before the deity is specifically forbidden. So the whole purpose of even worshiping demigods, we understand that there's not really any reason, because even if we have material desires, it says in Srimad Bhagavatam, a person, what is it? Akama savokamo va moksha kama udadi tivena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. A person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of all material desire, without any material desire, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the personality of Godhead. So I would say the key word here is somebody who has a broader intelligence will understand that, hey, even if I have material desires, let me just approach Krishna. He may or may not fulfill those desires, though, but he will always do what is best for me, like a loving father. But some people that have less intelligence or more envious, then they'll worship a demigod because they want the material desire, my material. No matter what Krishna thinks, I want whatever I want, whether it's riches or in this case, like a son. But the whole idea why that's even sanctioned in the Vedas for us to worship demigods like this is for gradual elevation. Because if we were to not worship a demigod for material desire and just try to do it in a materialistic way, then that we would incur a lot more sin in that way. Like, let's say I really want money, but I'm not getting enough from my job. Well, if we don't go to a demigod, then what are we going to do? We might go and steal from somebody or something like that. And that's just going to degrade us down to the hellish planets. But if we try to fulfill our material desires by approaching demigods, then eventually we get more and more used to following Vedic principles, and then we get some purification when we please the demigods. It's somewhat pleasing to the Lord, and it's a gradual elevation to the point where you end up worshiping Vishnu, Krishna, and Radha, and then you're back home after quite a long time. But that's the whole idea. That's the process. So who is Goddess Kali? is very interesting because literally just last night, I decided I would just go through the whole Brahma Samhita. I had never done that before. I've tried it before. It's very difficult if you've tried to read it. Some of the, purports by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is very high-level English. So, but I was just like, you know what? I just finished Bhagavatam, so I need to try again with Brahma Samhita. So, and I got really into it. From verse 29 to 60, it's it's a nectar. It's really, really nice. And it just so happens that it dives into, or Lord Brahma dives into who is Goddess Durga exactly. And I had just finished reading that when Prema called me and she's like, can you give class tomorrow morning? And I look at the verse and it talks about Goddess Kali or Durga. It's like, wow, look at Krishna's amazing arrangements all the time. So I'd like to read a few of those verses for you because it explains her role a lot better than I could. So you can go to Brahma Samhita 543, please. I'll just start 543. I'll just start reading the Sanskrit. Goloka namni jidamani tale chatasya Devi Mahesha Haridama Suteshu Teshu Tete Prabhava Nichaya Vihitaschayena Govinda Maripurusham Tamaham Bhajami. I love the Brahma Samhita meter, it's so nice. So the translation is, lowest of all is located Devi Dham, or the mundane world. Next above it is Mahesh Dham, above of Mahesh. Above Mahesh Dham is placed Hari Dham, the abode of Hari. And above them all is located Krishna's own realm named Goloka. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who has allotted these respective authorities to the rulers of those graded realms. So we see that this mundane world, this material world, is known as Devi Dham. So it's her world, it's Durga's world. And then we can go to 44, just the next one. Maybe we can recite together. It's always nice to do that. Shrishti stiti palaya sadhana shakti eka chaye vayasya bhuvanani bibati durga ichanupamapi yasya chachesta sisa govinda maripurusham tamaham bhajami. The external potency, Maya, who is of the nature of the shadow of the Chit potency, is worshipped by all people as Durga, the creating, preserving, and destroying agency of this mundane world. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, in accordance with whose will Durga conducts herself. So I would like to read the purport. Can somebody read the purport, please?
The aforesaid presiding deity of Devi Dham is being described. The world in which Brahma takes his stand and hymns the Lord of Goloka is Devi Dham, consisting of the 14 worlds, and Durga is the presiding deity. She is 10-armed, representing the tenfold fruit of activities. She rides on a lion, representing her heroic prowess. She tramples down Mahishasura, representing the subduer of vices. She is the mother of 2 sons, Kartikeya and Ganesha, representing beauty and success. She is placed between Lakshmi and Saraswati, representing mundane opulence and mundane knowledge. She is armed with the 20 weapons, representing the various pious activities enjoined by the Vedas for suppression of vices. She holds a snake, representing the beauty of destructive time. Such is Durga, possessing all these manifold forms. Durga is possessed of Durga, which means a prison house. When Jiva is begotten of the marginal potency, Tatashta Shakti, forget the service of Krishna, they are confined in the mundane prison house, the citadel of Durga. The wheel of karma is the instrument of punishment at this place. The work of purifying these penalized jivas is the duty devolved upon Durga. She is incessantly engaged in discharging the same by the will of Govinda. When luckily the forgetfulness of Govinda on the part of the imprisoned jiva is remarked by them by coming into contact with self-realized souls and their natural aptitude for the loving service of Krishna is aroused, Durga herself then becomes the agency of their deliverance by the will of Govinda. So it behooves everyone to obtain the guileless grace of Durga, the mistress of this prison house, by propitiating her with the selfless service of Krishna. The boons received by Durga in the shape of wealth, property, recovery from illness, of wife and sons should be realized as the deluding kindness of Durga. The mundane physical jubilations of Dasha Mahavidya, the 10 goddesses or forms of Durga, are elaborated for the delusion of the fettered souls of this world. Jiva is a spiritual atomic part of Krishna. When he forgets his service of Krishna, he is at once deflected by the attracting power of Maya, who throws him into the whirlpool of mundane and fruitive activities, karma, by confining him in a gross body constituted by the 5 material elements, their 5 attributes and 11 senses, resembling the garb of a prisoner. In this whirlpool, Jiva has experience of happiness and miseries, heaven and hell. Besides this, there is a subtle body consisting of the mind, intelligence, and ego inside of the gross body. By means of the subtle body, the jiva forsakes one gross body and takes recourse to another. The jiva cannot get rid of the subtle body, full of nescience and evil desires, unless and until he is liberated. On getting rid of the subtle body, he bathes in the viraja and goes up to the haridam. Such other activities performed by Durga in accordance with the will of Govinda. In the Bhagavat Sloka Vilajyamayana Duridya, the relationship between Durga and the conditioned souls has been described. Durga, worshipped by the people of this mundane world, is the Durga described above. But spiritual Durga, they're mentioned in the mantra, which is the outer covering of the spiritual realm of the spiritual Supreme Lord, is the eternal maidservant of Krishna, and is therefore the transcendental reality whose shadow, the Durga of this world, functions in this material mundane world as their maidservant.
Jai Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj Ki
Jai.
Wasn't this amazing? That was really nice. I don't know. I've never heard this purport before, but doesn't it explain like everything? I just thought it was really well explained. So Durga actually means, like in Sanskrit, it means like a master of the prison, like a prison house chief. And so this material world is known as a prison. We're all criminals. Sorry to tell you, but we're all criminals. And just like in a jail, if you're conforming, if you're doing well as a prisoner, and you're following all the rules and regulations, and you're acting in a way that's pleasing to the boss of the jail, then what happens? Well, eventually you can get out. You can get out, and then once you're pleasing at the leader of the jail, then you're pleasing to the leader of the country, and then he can get out if he's really satisfied with you. So just like the mind, Durga can be our best friend or our worst enemy. It all has to do on whether we're endeavoring to please Krishna or not, or if we're just endeavoring to please our own senses and just enjoy separately from him. So that's what I have for today. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on Durga, demigod worship, or anything like that, or any questions or corrections. Please do share. Hare Krishna. Yes, Mother Kunti. Somebody give her a microphone.
Ajay Prabhu, thank you so much. And reading these verses is so nice, very rich. The question is that of self-envy, that there's actually a saying in the Bhagavatam that the self actually envies oneself. And so we're full of these material desires and evil covering, thoughts, and that happen, get purified by chanting Hare Krishna. But so the question is, down to actually surrendering, how does Durga Mata, how does she actually help or hinder? What happens, at that point when the devotee is actually wanting that spiritual, in other words, that connection to be reestablished with the Supreme Lord?
Jai, thank you very much for the nice question. How does Durga go from being our enemy to our friend? How does she go from being the obstacle, the one that keeps us bound, that keeps us to forgetting Krishna? How does she go from that to being the one that is, unshackling us or driving us, redirecting us back to Krishna? It's a good question. I'm very much neophyte, and I can only speak on my limited understanding. However, what I gather is that she is the maidservant of Krishna, and so once she sees, and she has to really, and she's going to test us. She is going to test us. Be ready for it. Anticipate it. The more that we're sincere, the more that we endeavor, the more that the test is going to be at a higher level. And even, so my understanding is eventually Krishna will say, okay, you can let go of him, you can leave him alone. And she's in charge of the material world. So by the order of the Lord, she can start to organize things, arrange things in your life that will be suitable for your advancement in Krishna consciousness. For example, by the unlimited mercy of the Lord, it was arranged that I am here now with you. I just see it that Radha Kalachandji just fished me from Ottawa, Canada, and brought me here with you to this most unbelievable spiritual world that we call the ISKCON Dallas. And how do you explain that? How do you explain that in mundane terms? It has to be the arrangement of the Lord through his pure devotees, such as Goddess Durga. So, does that help? Yeah? Hare Krishna. Thank you. Yes, yeah.
This was something I learned recently, maybe 2 years ago or so. But Durga Devi is no other than our Srimati Subhadra Devi, and so I've heard we can pray to Subhadra. You are the Yoga Maya. Subhadra is the Yoga Maya, and Durga is the Maha Maya, but they're both, Maya Devi. So we can pray to Maya Devi, Subhadra Devi, Durga. Please allow me to serve Krishna, because Subhadra, as Yoga Maya, she facilitates Krishna's pastimes, and we worship her as Krishna's sister. I guess that's just the thought I had, is that when Durga becomes our friend, that is Subhadra Devi now. That is Yoga Maya. Mahamaya, when she's friendly to the devotee, she's Yoga Maya.
That's true. Yeah. yeah, she satisfies different roles according to the desire of the devotee, or the desire of just the jiva soul. Right? Do you have something, Prabhu?
I was thinking about how we often talk as devotees, like, who's the most merciful? Who do we pray to on the altar? And I was just recently hearing about how actually praying to Lady Subhadra can be one of the most merciful on our altar, because she can decide to stop engaging us in nonsense and start to engage us in Krishna's in Krishna's pastimes. Pretty amazing. Good point, Drista.
Yeah, just like, I'm sorry. Okay, it's not you, but I just don't want you anymore. I'm sorry. I miss Krishna. He's my only lover. I'm only happy when I serve him. I'm not happy when I serve you. I'm not happy when I serve you, Maya. So please just leave me alone.
And this is from dressing Lord Jagannath. I had the privilege of, for several years, of dressing our Jagannath here on the altar. And I don't know if other Jagannath pujaris will agree, but I know that if I don't offer my sincere, contrite, most whatever humble I can muster obeisances to Guru, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, and Subhadra Devi, Lord Jagannath and Lord Baladev, they will not accept their turbans.
Wow.
They won't accept them. I've had some serious problem trying to dress them. And then I remember, oh, I forgot to pray, and I prayed really fast. All of a sudden, everything comes out.
Wow.
Everything lined up.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, she deserves all the respect. Obviously, she's, pure devotee, and she's serving her purpose. It's one of what do they say? It's like, what's the expression when you have a role that people don't appreciate? Yeah, it's like a thankless task. Yeah, that's what she's doing. You have something?
Yeah, I was just looking at Subhadra Devi on the altar, and she's the little sister, she's so small and like cute and everything. And we're seeing her expansion here in the Bhagavatam, just like tearing up all these demons. It's really surprising to think of, Krishna's little sister. Yeah, that's her power. I've heard before that in Jagannath Puri, there's actually two standards of deity worship there, in that they're worshipping Vishnu Tattva, Krishna and Balaram, and then they're also worshipping Shakti. They're also worshipping like the Durga Tattva. And so she also has her own standard in that way. But yeah, Subhadra Devi ki jai.
Yeah, we want to. Yeah, we're interested in her spiritual form. Yeah, definitely. Okay, before concluding, I just wanted to now we talked a lot about Durga Devi, which is really nice, but I wanted to focus a bit on Jad Bharat, because he's the one that we can more, learn from, or we can be inspired by. So I'd like to go to Bhagavad Gita, chapter 16, verse 1 to 3. These are, Lord Krishna is giving us a list of qualities that we should aspire to develop within ourselves. And these qualities are completely found in Jad Bharat here. So, somebody want to read these, please?
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, charity, self-control, performance of sacrifice, study of the Vedas, austerity, simplicity, non-violence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, aversion of fault-finding, compassion for all living entities, freedom from covetousness, gentleness, modesty, steady determination, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, and freedom from envy, and from the passion for honor. These transcendental qualities, O son of Bharat, belong to godly men endowed with a divine nature.
Do you notice one thing about how Arjuna is called here? He's called the son of Bharat, from the Bharat lineage, right? So I don't know if that's what Krishna was, why he called them like that, but he called them in reference to Bharat, who we're talking about here. So what are some qualities here that we see that Jad Bharat is imbibing? Total freedom from anger. Yeah, no passion for honor. It's like, hey, you can love me, you can hate me. Doesn't matter to me. Renunciation. Simplicity. Freedom from envy. Gentle. Steady determination. How is he steady determined?
Yeah, there are so many of us, but, well, okay, I'll talk about me, who maybe make a goal or a vow, but we don't expect things to get really, really hard, you know, where it'd be much easier to just stop and go, well, I did what I could, but he's so determined that this is going to be his last lifetime in the material world, that he's not going to all of a sudden start acting like a Brahmin or try to run away from these dacoits. He's truly putting all his trust in Krishna for this lifetime.
Yeah, he put his complete faith in Krishna, complete surrender at any cost. Yes.
I just have a question. I know it's over time, so I don't know. It might open up a bigger discussion, but you mentioned how the devotee, for their own protection, they never, Trinata Pisani, the tree never says, hey, stop chopping me, So the devotee should be the same way. But yeah, if there's some Kali worshippers who are tying us up, do we just stand there and let them? And I know we always say we should not, almost put up a fight, but I'm not sure. It doesn't really resonate. It doesn't really feel so practical to me to kind of let someone murder me for seemingly no reason. Do you have any thoughts?
Well, and it's very high platform. Have you read Journey Home? Liar. Yes, do you want to say something? You've read it, yeah. So there's quite a few stories in there where Radhanath Swami Maharaj, His Holiness, was in a very dangerous situation. And sure, he was taking some steps to try to avoid the danger. But when he would get to a point where, it was out of his hands, and then he would just take shelter of the Lord, and he would just play and remember Krishna, or, remember Lord Nishingadev, and then by some kind of miracle, he would get saved, So he would get, somehow it would be arranged. And it happened numerous occasions, and over time, it really built his faith, clearly. Or when we think of Draupadi, what was happening when she was trying to defend herself, when she was trying to be the controller, what happened? Krishna is like, all right, you got this, you're fine. But as soon as she's just surrendered and she just yelled out the name of Krishna, then he had to come in and save her. So it's a really hard, it's a high bar, and it requires a lot of faith. And we might not be at that platform yet, but we can take little steps, we can put ourselves in a bit of risky situations sometimes in order to serve him. And we'll see that he'll step in. He'll step in. If we take shelter of him, he'll step in. And then the faith builds and builds and builds to the point where hopefully one day we can be like Jad Bharat or Draupadi or Radhanath Swami Maharaj. So does that help a little bit, or? Yes, thank you. Do you want to say something?
Hare Krishna, I just wanted to add that, in the journey home, the Swami was in danger and he did defend himself, but first he prayed for what he should do. It wasn't remember when he was kidnapped, stuck in this room, and he had to get out. He knew if he stayed murdered. And Draupadi too, she fought and she fought and she fought, but at some point she had a realization of what she should do. So I think just that prayer and that trust in Krishna turn into him giving us intelligence in certain situations.
That's a good point. Yeah, we shouldn't just be stupid either. Like, Krishna gives us the intelligence and we should use it in his service. It reminds me, I'll finish on this because I know we're a bit over time, but there's this nice joke that not sure who says it, but it's really relevant. I've heard devotees say it. I'll keep it short. So there's a man who's drowning in the ocean. His boat got pierced and the boat sunk and he's drowning in the ocean. And so, he's praying very sincerely, very helplessly to the Lord, please come and save me. And then all of a sudden there's a little boat that comes and the man is like, you're in danger, let me help you, come on the ship, I'll save you. And he's like, no, it's okay. God's going to save me. I'm fine. So then he's like, all right. He keeps going. And then a bigger ship comes, like a big yacht. And he's like, here, hop on. We'll save you. And he's like, no, it's okay. I'm praying to God. He's going to come and get me. Don't worry about it. So then he's like, all right, fine. Keep going. Finally, a helicopter comes with a big one of those big ladders. And it drops right beside him. He's like, just climb up. And he's like, no, it's okay. I'm praying to God, he's taking care of this. So then he let him go and then he dies. And then he goes to, the gates of heaven and he meets God and he's like, what happened? I was totally, surrendered onto you and I was praying helplessly and you didn't come and save me. He's like, I sent you 3 guys to come and get you and you didn't come, so that's your own fault. So, the message of the story is okay, we have to use our own intelligence, and God's not always going to come and directly save us like Nrsingadev did. But he will send devotees, or he will give us the intelligence for within, or he'll do something to get us in a safe position. So anyways, anything else, or is that okay? We're good? Thank you so much for participating and hearing. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vanchakalpatu.